Hi guys, I'm Mary Poplin with Imagineer Systems, and today we're going to be going over how to do motion graphics with Mocha Pro, After Effects, and Plexus. So let's get started. What we have here is a shot of some tacos. Very exciting stuff. It sort of is rotating on this turntable. What we're going to do is we're going to separate out some of these shapes to add animation with rotoscoping, and we're going to do some 3D camera solving and object tracking to put this in 3D. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this X-spline around this lime, and we're going to track and roto at the same time. Now, normally I tell people not to track and roto at the same time unless your shapes are really simple, and these are pretty simple because it's just a pan motion. So we're going to just track this backwards because the back of the shot is where the most information is. Now you see how we're squishing here? I'm actually going to move this shape over, track translation only, and retract that section. Now when I move my shape back, it won't be off as much, so I can just adjust my roto. It's just that simple. Every single bit of roto in Mocha works the same way, so I'm going to do the same thing over here for this other lime. The key concept being, how do you save yourself time by tracking and hooking roto up to that? Now, when you use Mocha to rotoscope, you end up using a third of the keyframes you would normally use and end up rotoscoping in half the time. So we're just going to keep adjusting this shape until we get it to animate exactly how we need it to. Now, when you animate in Mocha, what you want to do is you want to animate on the arcs of the animation. I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward through the rest of my rotoscoping here because the techniques are all the same. When I say animating on the arcs of the animation, what I mean is that you will need to use traditional animation skills in order to get the most bang for your keyframe buck when you rotoscope. That means you look for areas where your shape is the most off and you correct it between those points. All right? So I hope that makes sense. Now I'm just going to finish correcting this taco here, and we're going to start aligning our surface tools. So I'm going to take my selection tool and align these surface tools to the objects where I would like my nulls to be in After Effects for Plexus. Now normally this isn't really that important for Mocha because usually what you do is you align the surface to the layer in order to bring it to After Effects for corner pins, but we're actually not using these for corner pins, we're using them for nulls. So I'm just going to go through this whole shot and I'm going to keep arranging the four corners of my surfaces to areas where it makes the most sense to have them. So that's just a visual thing for me, and I'm just using my best judgment. But notice how I'm looking for every corner of the bulk of the shape. Now, it's not going to be perfect squares ever, but we're just trying to make sure that they move properly with the objects that they're trying to be hooked up to. Because the thing about solving for 3D in Mocha is that you're really just solving for planes. So you want to make sure your planar data is moving in a way that makes sense. All right, now the last thing we need to do to solve for this camera is we're going to track this background. We track this background even though it's not really moving because this is a camera on a tripod. Now, when we do camera solves for shots on a tripod, we just select pan, tilt, zoom, and we only need to track one layer. So we've tracked this single layer, and what we're going to do is we're going to hit solve. Now we have a problem here. We're not solving for as high a quality as I'd like. So I increase my lens value so that I can guess what is better about the lens value, but that's still not giving me a proper solve. So what I really need to do is I need to shrink my surface tool because that's what Mocha uses to get its accurate data. And now we have a 99% accurate camera solve. So we're going to go ahead and select all our layers, and we're going to go to export camera data. We're going to copy that to the clipboard, and we're just going to hop over to After Effects from here. And what this should do is this should copy all of our nulls. And what we'll do is we'll open up our shot in After Effects, and we'll go to Edit, Paste Mocha Camera. What that will do is that will paste in 5 nulls for every surface tool we had. And you can see that they will move properly in 3D space. Now, in order to use the older version of Plexus that I have, what you have to do is you have to make these into lights. So what I use is I use a script, and it's called Null Swapper, and you can just Google that and download it. It's free. And what it does is it swaps the nulls for lights. So now all our nulls are lights in the shot. Now we're also going to come in here and we are going to make a new solid. Now this solid is going to be what we're going to paste our Mocha shapes onto. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this new solid, go back over to Mocha, go to the Track tab, and we're going to select Mocha Shape Data for After Effects, All Visible Layers, and copy it to the clipboard. When we jump back over to Mocha, we go to Edit, Paste Mocha Mask, and what that does is that pastes all our masks onto this layer. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to run another script, and this is going to break out our shapes into different layers. So we go to Convert Masks to Layers, okay, JavaScript, and we're just going to open that, and we're just going to go ahead and hit Proceed. What that will do is that will break all our shapes out into layers, and we can now start to adjust them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to the layer properties for the solid, and I'm going to go ahead and change these colors to the colors I would like these layers to be for my animation. So I'm just going to come in here and change the tortilla to yellow and the cheese to orange and the chicken to brown and all kinds of stuff. And what we're going to do is we're just going to keep changing this until I get all the colors that I want in, like the limes as green and tomatoes as red. Okay? And now what we're going to do is I'm going to stagger these layers, because what I want them to do is I want them to animate on and off over time, and I want it to be a cascading effect so that it adds some interest to my shot. Now, this is only because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be emphasizing what the nutritional value of these is. So, now you can see that that is animating. What we're going to do from here, though, is we're going to actually change the way that these interact. So I'm going to make these blend soft light over the top of everything and save my file. Now, as I play everything, it will actually just add like a lighting effect as opposed to being a solid over the top. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a new solid, and we're going to add our Plexus tool to this solid. So what we do is we just drag our Plexus effect over to the top, and we create a geometry modifier. And what we're going to do is we're going to say that it's lights, which that's the default, so that's great. We're also going to add some noise to this so that we can offset the particles from the lighting nulls themselves, okay? And we're going to add a points renderer, and we can adjust the size to whatever size we would like of our points renderer. In this case, we're going to do 10. All right, and then we're going to actually make a line renderer as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to increase the maximum number of vertices and the maximum distance and the line thickness. Now, if you don't see your lines, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to increase your line distance until you can see them. So as we increase our line distance, you can see that we see what's going on in our Plexus particle creator. Now, we're going to go ahead and adjust these settings until we feel like they look right, and this is generally just a trial and error sort of affair. If you want it to look like a spider web, you would need to use a lot. If you want it to seem sparse, you would want to use less. So we're just going to go ahead and make sure that we have everything looking how we want it to look. I don't know if I want to have facets or not, so I don't know that I'm really going to mess with that. But I definitely want lines in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to adjust our vertices, and we're going to start animating the properties of this over time so that they change and look interesting as we scroll through the shot. So that's just going to be a intuitive process where we're the designer and we use this really awesome tool to sort of gauge how we want this to look. So I want more lines to appear as it goes through the scene, and I want them to come on and off so that it doesn't look like it's just stuck to the image. We're going to increase the noise as well to sort of offset this over time so it looks like it's sort of growing. What I want is I want to sort of give a appearance that this is being built. The look I'm going for is that we are making a sort of high-tech breakdown of the matrix of what is in this food, because we're talking about nutritional value. And that's just part of designing around how you want to portray your information. The concept is always key for this kind of work. So we're going to scroll through and we can see that this is what we've got so far, all right? So now what I need to start thinking about is I need to think about the text that I'm going to add to this scene. So we're just going to draw a text box here, and we're going to paste some nutritional information for tacos into here. And obviously it's not formatted correctly, so what we're going to do is we're going to use After Effects formatting tools, and we're going to start to adjust the way this text looks so it looks a little bit more designy, looks a little bit less like just something we copied and pasted from the internet, even though that's what we did. We want it to look like nutritional information that came off the side of a box or something that you would see in a fast food restaurant. Now from here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make a new solid, and we're going to put this behind our text so that we make our text pop. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag this where I want it, and we're going to move the layer obviously underneath after we multiply it. So we're just going to take the black solid, move it under our white solid, and now you can see that we are outlining our text, but I feel like that's a little too stark, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the opacity down to about 45%, maybe 50. And from here, what I'm going to do is just finish adjusting my box until it looks nice and designy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some text. I'm going to attach it to my lights as if they were nulls. Okay. So in this case, we're going to make some text for the tomato with its calorie information moving alongside of the tomato itself. So we're going to select a null that moves along with our tomatoes that we like, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick whip that to the light. Now, it's very important when we make text like this that we toggle our layer to 3D, otherwise it's not going to move properly in space with our light. So once we put it in 3D, it's going to sit in 3D space, which means the size might not be correct. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to move it where we want it and scale it where we want it. But so long as we move it in the proximity of the nulls that we have imported from Mocha, it will move properly with the shot. So again, we are a planar solver, not a camera tracker, right? We're just trying to get planar data that we can hook stuff up to very fast. I'm just going to finish dropping some text in here very quickly because I don't want to make you sit through the same technique over and over, but what we end up with is a shot that looks just like this. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add some opacity transforms to my text just because I feel like this is a little sloppy looking. It just pops on and off. So I want to make it fade on and off so that it doesn't overlap my white text that is inside of my black multiplied box. So we're just going to make these pop on and off in a fadey sort of way, the same way that our colors pop on and off. All right. And we're going to make these cascade through time to make this fit into the shot better. And this is just part of the design process where you decide what looks good as you go. So let's go ahead and play that through and see what it looks like. I feel like that's starting to look pretty dynamic. So we've got some particles from Plexus, we've got some text that's placed into the shot, we've got some animated colors using rotoscoped shapes to sort of highlight the objects that we are selecting in the scene, and everything's moving together in a seamless sort of way. This is a really good example of the way Mocha can make things just fit in the shot based on our very simple planar tracking. Alright guys, I am Mary Poplin with Imagineer Systems. If you have any questions, let us know, and I hope you have a wonderful day.